All right, let's talk pre-shading. So we start with a zenithal prime. If you're unfamiliar with that, I have a short how I zenithal prime video over in the how I playlist, and there's plenty of videos out there on zenithal priming, but that is where we begin. All right, so I'm going to start by taking this gray, and I'm going to dry brush the areas of shadow that didn't get any of the gray primer or the white ink, and this way those details will pop out a little bit. And this gray is in between the black and the gray primer, so it doesn't get as light as that area. All right, so that is how that looks right there, and sometimes you have to go back and do a couple coats, but just keep going till you're happy. All right, so I'm going to add some shade to the white area, and I'm using a flush shade and just a brown shade because it depends on the colors you're painting over these. I'm going to do these tentacles in a magenta, so I'm using a warmer shade, and I'm going over the areas that have some interesting detail, and then these horns are going to be a brown color, so I'm just using a brown shade. And this is going to darken it down a bit, but it's still much lighter than the rest of the miniature, and we're going to bring the highlights back up. I want these detailed ridges to just pop out a lot. So do this, it's mostly in the white area, but it's anywhere where there's some recessed details that you want to pop out. So I did some down there in the bottom, and it's mostly up here in the white area. All right, now we're going to bring the highlights back up. So I'm grabbing white, and I'm going to dry brush all around the horns, pretty much just trying to bring it back up to a similar highlight. And then the rest of the body of the gray area, I'm just going to do some soft or easy downward strokes. I'm going to maybe hit a few of the more extruding details in the shadowed area, but mostly I want to leave that down. So here's what that looks like. You can see I've brought up caught a lot of the details up in the tentacles and the horns and everything, and that has brought the color back up. We are going to push this a little bit more. I'm going to grab my white paint, and I'm going to mix in a little bit of gloss varnish. I'm going to thin it out with gloss varnish, and I'm going to use this to add some more highlights up here. Going to do just upper regions, edges, anything I want to really pop out. And after I start adding color, I might want to add some more highlights. And then while I have the gloss varnish on my palette, I'm going to go ahead and use it to fill in this fairly large gap right here. So just going to do a layer, let it dry, come back, do another layer. After 2 or 3 of those, it should be good. So here are the horns and the tentacles and the face, shoulders area. I did a couple other details like some veins and a few other spots that I wanted to pop. And there is that gap, nice and filled now. And that is pretty much it. So here's a few before and after shots of what it looked like just after the zenithal, and then once I added in the pre-shading. All right, that is the pre-shading done, and now she is ready for some glazes.